Women need men more than men need women. Sorry about that. So, if you're from the UK, you most likely have found out already that misogyny has finally gone through as a hate crime. God knows for how long they've been trying to push this as a hate crime. So there's an interview on BBC News I would like us to take a look at and try and spot the flaws in the judgment of modern feminism nowadays.
It should be classed as a hate crime, according to a new report today from the Law Commission. The consultation said abuse women face because of their gender should be treated in the same way as other discrimination. Currently, the law protects people based on their race, religion, sexual orientation, disability and transgender identity. Let's speak now to Stella Creasy, who is the Labour MP for Walthamstow. She's led the calls for a change in the law and secured the Law Commission's review a couple of years ago. And also Eileen McKay, who is a writer and researcher who's personally experienced misogyny. Hello to both of you. Stella Creasy, first of all, how would you define misogyny?
Well, just as with any other form of hatred, there is a legal definition we've been looking at, which is about hostility based on the basis of simply who you are. So many women will tell you their stories have become so ingrained we don't realise that it's misogyny, about having to walk down the street late at night with their keys gripped in their hand in case somebody approaches them, about the abuse and violence that they face both on and offline. And it's
So, look, as long as these women are claiming that all women have experienced this sort of abuse and violence they're speaking about, can't understand that. Obviously, I had bad experience with men in my life, but equally I've had bad experience with women in my life. That hasn't led me to want to have a law that protects my narrative, because like she also mentioned, a lot of women have experienced misogyny and they didn't even know that that was misogyny. What that proves to me is that whoever's trying to push this into the society is kind of brainwashing women that there's something wrong with society, and it's brainwashing us that men hate us and there's so much violence around us, which is not true.
hostility on the basis of just being a woman, being who they are. Making misogyny a hate crime is about making sure that women...
Exactly. So they're continuously trying to make out that the world hates women for who they are because they're women. And that's not true. Maybe I'm just being naive and I don't know what I'm expecting, because I know that from my experience that these are the flaws of humans. And if you bring to the table a narrative that suits your ego, you're most likely gonna go with that. Basically, everything that takes you out of the responsibility and comforts your ego and your pride, you're just gonna go with that without thinking.
It's about making sure that women can be as equally free as anyone else in society to be who they are without fear of harm.
So how do you react to...
Dude, suffragettes would be ashamed of you. Are you serious? How many women are being afraid to be who they are? Who are you? It's not like we're aliens and we're trying to be who we truly are and we can't because we risk being killed. Right? I mean, so yeah, I don't see how the world is suppressing women to be who they are. No say. I don't know.
To this report from the Law Commission today, which recommends that it is made a hate crime.
Well, I welcome it. We've been working, it's a coalition of 26 different organisations as broad as Stonewall, but also Citizens UK, Refuge, Hope Not Hate, the Fawcett Society, Dimensions, organisations who work on hate crime, who all recognise that there's a gap in our law right now. And why I particularly welcome this proposal is that at the moment we ask women to choose a particular element of their identity if they're going to get taken seriously as a victim of hate crime. So if they are a Muslim or if they are a lesbian, this allows them to be seen as a victim in their own right without having to choose. And we know it works. In the 7 police forces that are already doing this around the country, it's changing the way in which hate crime is dealt with. It means that women are being believed and we're better able to detect and ultimately prevent these crimes.
But we already...
No, women are not believed. I don't believe women nowadays. I'm sorry, I don't believe them. No, I think women are seeing as they're losing their wits. Just because you're able to manipulate socially the entire chunk of women in the world doesn't mean that the world believes you. To be honest, it's so sad, and it has gotten to the point of if a woman comes to me and she's telling me she's being raped, I swear to God, I can't empathize or I can't trust her. It's so bad because by trying to inflict this onto women, women are taking away the power of being raped and sexually assaulted. I'm sorry. And like this person said, a lot of women didn't even know they've experienced misogyny behavior. They didn't even know they've experienced sexual assault. Why? Do you think because they were stupid and it needed you to come up with a law to tell them what sexual assault is or misogyny is?
We already have legislation that protects people from harassment, from assault and so on. Why do we need this?
Exactly. Good question.
Well, the evidence tells us that recognising the motivation, I must stress, this doesn't create any new crimes, but just as we recognise when somebody is motivated by racial hatred to attack people, so this recognises where people are motivated by their hatred of women to attack people, we can better detect those crimes and we can change the culture, because the reality is that
You are changing the
all too
culture.
often when they come forward to report instances, people say that's life. It's not. It's not acceptable. It needs to change. We need to challenge these perpetrators so that everybody is free to be who they are without fear of being attacked.
So it's important.
I swear to God that the way these women think they're gonna fix the world, is by policing like such an uncool mother. I had a mom in school that she was the police defendant of her son. It was tragic. He didn't like it, we didn't like it, she didn't like it. That's what these women are doing. Do you really think that hate crimes, misogyny, and rape and sexual assault and anything like that happens because there's no law that punishes people doing that? Do you really think whoever's being abused in this world is because there's no law? I mean, no, obviously not. The people are abused because it's an imperfect world, and some people are psychopaths, some people are broken psychologically, some people are on drugs and they lost their wits. I don't know, God damn it. It's just brainwashing people into this idea that the men are bad and men are the cancer and men are rapists and all that stuff. It's not going to change the world, because the world is how it is, because that's how humans are. However, it's going to have such a huge impact in the relationship between each other. It's going to divide us, and that's not going to help us. It's just going to end up in more miserable women, and I'm not sure about men. I don't think men would be as depressed as women, because in the end, women need men more than men need women. Sorry about that.
Learn.
Important that you point out it doesn't create a new crime. What it would allow courts to do is to consider it an aggravating factor when handing out sentences.
Yes, just as when we recognise and we say it's not acceptable for somebody to be abused because of the colour of their skin or their sexuality, so we would be able to say women shouldn't experience the abuse and harassment. And we know during lockdown that domestic violence and sexual harassment on our streets has soared. They shouldn't have to experience that, and we will send a very strong message through our courts, through our policing system, that it won't be tolerated. Rather than asking women to cope with this, society can change it.
Let me bring our audience in on this. This tweet.
Well, it is true that during the lockdown, a lot of domestic violence has happened, but let's think about it for a second. We don't do that often, but that's why I'm here today, so we can think about it. I'm a woman and I've experienced lockdown myself, and I'm lucky enough to be in a good relationship. And sorry, I forgot to mention, my partner is a man, right? And I don't know, for some weird reason, he hasn't decided to break my neck this lockdown, even though he had reasons to. No, the world doesn't tell women to cope with the abuse that men have inflicted on them. However, what the world is trying to put on women's shoulder is responsibility, and that's not fun. I can empathize with that. That's not fun for everyone. Since we want equality, just as well we need to be responsible for it as well. And being equal means taking responsibility of your choices and with who you hang around, right? There is a reason why you're in a relationship with a toxic person. Just because some men have being abusive in their relationship during their lockdown or during any time doesn't mean that men are to be cancelled. Society doesn't want women to put up with abuse in toxic relationships, obviously, but I think we should take responsibility with who we hang around and why do we choose these type of partners. I know a lot of women that have been abused by the partners and they're just not leaving those relationships. Why? Well, because that's familiar to them, because there's something psychologically wrong with them and they have experienced past trauma in their childhood. Perhaps that's how their parents behaved with each other, and you're gonna say,
Well, yeah, see, if toxic masculinity wouldn't exist, that means she wouldn't have to go through what she's going through now.
what I'm trying to highlight is that toxic relationships are learned. You think men are toxic because they have testicles and testosterone? You think that's why a man becomes toxic? No, because most likely he's being abused or he had a shitty mother or shitty childhood or so on and so forth. My point was that when people are toxic in relationship, it's something about them that has happened in the past. Someone else behaved with them the same. It's not because they have testicles or because their hormone-driven testosterone is skyrocketing through the roof. That's not why people are toxic. So another another flaw that I see in the modern feminism today is, like she said, like she had a bad experience with a man. Granted that she felt uncomfortable. You know, there's nothing untrue about what she said with, or I hope it's not. Something bad happens, you go to the police, you report it, and then because police doesn't seem to do anything, you feel discriminated because you're a woman. And I think that's a really simplistic idea. As much as women nowadays would like to think they're really empathetic and compassionate, I think we don't think about how much other people have to put up with at work or in their life in order to make things happen for us. And in this case, the police. It's obviously unfair when you go to report a crime and you're not being taken seriously, but that doesn't mean that people are not dealing with your case because you're a certain color of skin. You can imagine who makes that noise. I don't know if you can hear it, but it's exactly the type of woman that I'm talking about, which I feel, there you go. See, maybe, like, I'm not thinking, I just got offended. I just did the same thing that women do. I got offended. I thought she's doing it to annoy me, which I don't think is true. But anyway, there you go. Burn. So we don't think about who have we spoken with when we reported our case. Who was that person? Maybe what happened in that person's life in that moment. Maybe they had a rough day, maybe they were tired, something slipped there. The report slipped, they forgot to do something, to say something, and that triggers a whole another chain of events that we are not aware of, and we don't really know the true reason why our report hasn't been taken seriously. And also, would you really want for the police to take your report seriously for a guy that has been just a kid and he was trying to intimidate you in a train? Or would you rather have that person to deal with someone that perhaps would have kidnapped a child and, I don't know, anything way worse than what happened to you in the train? What we could do better is focus on the youth, focus on them having good relationships, focus on them being there for them as parents, as friends, as siblings, and educate them. Not raising boys in class to apologize to girls. What the does that mean? That's absolutely pathetic, and it's just making boys not want to be around girls. Worthy men and worthy boys Not want to have anything to do with girls anymore, with girls that have this attitude and have been brainwashed into thinking that a boy should apologize for what? For being a man? You're just destroying the mating ritual that we had. There is a reason why men are responding to women's youth and women's clothing and the way they react and talk and walk and all that stuff. We're meant to select the best mates in order to have better people in the world, not to deal with the leftovers men that can't be asked to deal with themselves, and they're just gonna be like women. Basically, they're just gonna talk you into, yes, I am not like the other men, just so they will get laid. And then can you imagine that generation of kids? No, this is not okay. Anyway, we shall see. I'm curious to see where is this gonna go. I don't see anything. I don't see that this is gonna go anywhere good. And yes, if you wonder what the heck am I holding, is my glove with the microphone. It's my glove with the phone. I worked out that if I put something over my phone, the wind doesn't sound as bad. What are your thoughts about this? Where do you think that this is going to lead us? And even more, what do you think that could be changed? What could women that don't agree with this could do in order to at least keep the balance of the world not going insane? Until next time, guys. See ya! The misogyny has finally gone through as a hate crime.